Continues after last night's loss to the Utah Hockey Club with a pair of afternoon games throughout the weekend, Saturday against Minnesota and then Sunday at Winnipeg. Meanwhile, around the NHL, Alex Ovechkin scored goal 888. The number to break the goals record of all time is now down to 7, as Washington also became the first team to clinch a playoff berth in the NHL. Edmonton's Connor McDavid leaving last night's game in Winnipeg with a lower body injury, while center Leon Draisaitl was also scratched last night with an undisclosed injury. To football, free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers visiting with the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to various sources. Rodgers was released by the New York Jets after 2 seasons. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports that wide receiver Brandon Cooks has agreed to a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Saints for $13 million. To college hoops, Baylor defeating Mississippi State 75-72 with some late-game drama. Meanwhile, the games that are going on right now, Iowa State all over Lipscomb. It's 64-36. Meanwhile, 5th seed Memphis taking on 12th seed Colorado State. That is a 36-31 score. Meanwhile, game just finishing for number 2 Alabama as they had to fight off 15 seed Robert Morris, a score of 90-81. Finally, the Bandits at home tonight against Las Vegas at KeyBank Center. 7:30 face-off. You could hear that over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR Sports Radio 550.
Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
My dad's not here right now. He's still at work. So I'm going to bless him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm going to see if there's a clean version so that my parents and the people at my school will not get mad at me. We've got the spritzer filled with water just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm going to set up the speaker and I'm going to listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it. And
the Bulldog
put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mumble rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need the spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
Hi there. Happy Friday. The sun is out. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for joining me. Bulldog is off today. Things are cooking in here with the tournament into, the real part of the tournament into day 2. Got to watch my alma mater-in-law, Baylor, hold off Mississippi State just now. I'm it's not exactly right. It's approximate in a cool 13 millionth place in the ESPN bracket challenge. Did you do one of the big ones? I mean, we do what? We do our office pools. Not that we have one here. Why would we have an office pool? We, do those. Maybe our friends. I'm in the Survivor Streets this year. Joe Ostrowski, Sammy P, Trista. Let's go Colorado State. Kind of need that. I knew it too, especially with Bulldog away. I really didn't need my key game to be on between 3 and 7, but I decided ultimately not to care about that. So I don't know. I'm going to try not to get distracted. I'm down 5 at half. Anyway, lots of different, of course, possibilities, formats, pools, etc. with the tournament. You can just go. I'm only there because a friend has his own private group there this year. But the ESPN one, in the past, just Yahoo, ESPN, CBS. Just, you don't need anybody to invite you. You just stop by, fill out a bracket, and you check it, and you're in 13 millionth place. It probably went down. I don't even think I had Baylor, which is, could be a problem at home. So I'm watching this game, and, I mean, you've heard it before, you've thought it. I am a casual, okay, if I need to say it, when it comes to college basketball anymore. I'm not the guy who really should be, appointing myself judge or jury on rules stuff, things going on. Hockey, I think maybe I have a little bit more of a leg to stand on when it comes to, the offside challenge, or we had it in the Sabres game last night, goalie interference, that review stuff. But college basketball, at the end of the game, for all its for all the fun and the greatness of the tournament, I'm not here to poke holes in that, but these end of game stoppages are just, they're insufferable. It's really a lot. It's timeouts and I'm not here to advocate that they change anything exactly. The proverbial genie is out of the bottle, right? It's a cliche, but it's so the case when it comes to replay. And I don't want to be so numb to it that I don't have any reaction anymore. College basketball, hockey, football, of course, baseball now, soccer, everything. It's just so prevalent. And I don't imagine it's ever going away. Do you? Like, is it ever going away? What is the most frustrating thing about it, maybe, is just how arbitrary the usage is. Here in this basketball game, I'm sort of with Baylor, like it's my team. And they're ahead the whole game. Mississippi State makes it closer late, and they're down maybe 4, doesn't matter. Mississippi State guy goes up for a 3, misses it, but they call a shooting foul on Baylor. So 3 shots, and then they show the replay, and really, like, he doesn't touch him. The exact play isn't the point. It's that, I guess there are limits, thank goodness, to how often officiating goes to the replay. I don't know exactly what those limits are right now when it comes to the NCAA tournament, but they exist. They're not going to the monitor on the first foul of the game to see if they got it right. Are they going to the monitor on the first close play on the boundary? No, most of the game goes along. And like it always has, we are fine with, we live with 3 officials. Okay, they're not going to get them all right. Is the sport popular? Does the tournament draw eyeballs? I kind of think it does. So whatever, like, the limitations are in that area, what percentage of calls are mistakes, right, is not a deal breaker. We watch anyway. Yet then we get to the end of the game, and the worst ones are when they review the clock. And this is one that I've never liked. Tenths of seconds. We had one in this game where Baylor was shooting a free throw. It took them forever to let the guy shoot the free throw because they were, I don't know what, reviewing who the foul was really on, and it just took forever. So, teams use timeouts to try to ice the shooter. Here it was that the officials were doing that. The Baylor guy eventually misses the foul shot. They're up 3 with half a second to go in the game. The game should have probably been over already, but they had reviewed 2 things prior to this. A foul on that play, and then before that, when the ball landed out of bounds. How did we ever survive without having to do that? When basically a whistle blew and the clock operator hit the button, click, stops the clock, and that was enough. But not anymore. So we've got Baylor up 3, half a second, free throw up, rims out. Mississippi State with a timeout goes up, gets the timeout, or gets the rebound, and immediately calls timeout as the clock goes down to 0. But that's not the end of the game, because the timeout was called in time, I guess. We really don't know. They decide that Gene Steratore comes on. Who doesn't love it when that happens? He comes on and says, a minimum, just think about this. Appreciate the just insanity of this. A minimum of 0.3 of a second must expire when a team calls a timeout, like on a rebound like that. So they put it from 0.5 to 0.2 without any real evidence of anything, without any real, just, this is when you heard the timeout call. Is it the first t in timeout or the last t? Do you have to say both words, right? To completion. Can we just play sports? So Mississippi State gets 0.2 of a second, taking the ball out under its own basket to try to tie the game with a 3. And that rule is, and I've known this one, if it's 0.3 of a second or less, tenths of a second. The human brain cannot even like sort of know tenths of a second. It's just we can't even really know that. But that's what it is. Been that way a long time. Under or 0.3 of a second or less, a team cannot catch and shoot because we've decided that is not enough time to be able to catch the pass and put the ball back up. So what do they have to do? Like volley it or something just to have a chance? The guy actually does kind of catch and shoot, but misses anyway, and that's finally it. I don't know. Do you need the speech on just how like nuts all of this is? Do you need it? I guess I do need to be talking here, but it's all just a little bit of a takeaway of the enjoyment of the thing, and we've decided it's not even argued anymore, right? It's not even a discussion. We've decided that in sports, with the technology we have, that this is a good thing. That it is better to be able to scrutinize these calls and stop the game time after time after time to make sure we have the clock exactly right to the 10th of a second and everything else that goes with that. Do you recognize that for the rest of the game, almost 40 minutes, for the rest of the game, what happens? You're the clock operator. Official blows the whistle. You click the button. How much time does it take to do that? It's not 0. Every other whistle that happens in a basketball game, the clock doesn't immediately stop. The whistle doesn't control the clock. A person does. This will probably change someday. And we'll invent whistles that actually stop the clock themselves. So this issue, which I don't think anybody really cares, goes away. Like, have you ever heard this point made on a basketball broadcast? I give it to you every once in a while. The rest of the game, however many tenths of a second, or even perhaps like a full second sometimes, where you're a little bit slow on the trigger, just sort of are lost. They don't exist in the game. Every whistle is a little bit of time that goes away that's actually not, basketball. It's the time between the whistle and the clock operator clicking the button. But at the end of the game, we can't have that. At the end of the game, the rules change. There should be no time between the whistle and the clicking of the button. So that's what we do. We go and look at the monitor and we got to eliminate that. The rest of the game, we have it. It's always there. Nobody notices it. But at the end of the game, we can't have that. I don't know. I just don't think we need to be like this. I just don't think we need this level of analysis. And every sport is, different in their own ways, of course. The games are different, but they're still the same kind of, we're at a point now where the same kind of level of scrutiny is there. And I think we mostly think that it's good. Balls and strikes. For spring training this year, they called it the ABS system, automated balls and strikes. And a batter or a catcher or a pitcher, if they do it immediately, just for spring training, and it's in the minors, it's been in the minors, immediately can challenge the call of a ball or a strike. And up comes the box, the strike zone on the screen, and then there's the ball strike, and it's quick anyway. So we like that. We don't like it when it drags on. In basketball, it drags on. In football, obviously, sometimes it does. But at least it's fast. Like tennis is fast. Is it fair to miss the arguments? It doesn't have to be the arguments, but like the human element of it, when there are missed calls, that if you like are really crazy about sports and you have been a long time, you can remember the most famous, especially in Buffalo in a couple cases, you can remember famous missed calls. And is that, I don't know. See, this is where my argument basically runs out of gas, because I want to say, is that so bad? And, you're probably thinking, yes, it's bad. Yes, we should get it right. But the incongruity, like the ways in which replay, we're going to use it here but not there, even though we think of football. Think of the play that I'm thinking of is the face mask in the end zone in the Rams-Vikings game, which we couldn't change because the rules, don't allow for certain things to be reviewed, even when they're blatant, even when we know. Like this foul I mentioned in the Baylor game, or that play, or 100 other things that happen, if you want it, in every sporting event. Every bit of contact that could be called a foul but isn't. Every holding or illegal contact in a football game that could be called but isn't. Because why? Because the game wouldn't be any fun. If they called it would just go off the rails. It would be stupid if they called every foul, every contact in a basketball game, or whatever, hockey, interference, hooking, kind of just. It's a matter of degrees, right? It's a matter of degrees in a basketball game, in a hockey game, in football, when we're going to decide like that rose to the level of a penalty or whatever. And I don't know, like the way that these basketball games end, when they're close, not when they're not close, you're checked out anyway. But when it's close, it can just be like, ugh. Soccer is also like soccer has a problem too, or at least I think it does. Maybe Again, like I just don't think I don't hear any uproar about it anymore. We're so indoctrinated into the replay life. But it feels like almost any time a goal is scored in a soccer game, we have to wait to see if it's actually good. And it just sucks from the whole point of loving it is those moments. A goal is scored or given up and you feel something, and you're not allowed to feel it until we get the monitor out. And we get the guy, there's a delay every time, and just, is this actually better, though, than how it used to be? I mean, it's a long time ago now, since before replay. Like football, the Buffalo-Washington Super Bowl, I don't know exactly the year, I guess I could look, but 1991 season, Buffalo, Washington, Bills, and then Redskins in the Super Bowl. There was replay in that game because I remember a play in the end zone that was, I think, overturned or at least analyzed. And so we're going back 35 years or more since we've had it in the NFL. I mean, a lot of you wouldn't remember there being an NFL or sports without replay, like all over the place. If you like tennis, you might even be young enough to not remember when, like at the slams, they would have people, imagine this, they'd have people standing behind the lines calling in or out. Now they don't have that anymore. They have different voices. I think this is maybe all the slams now. I don't know. I don't follow it like I used to, but they have different voices for different lines that they play in the stadium. It's not all one voice calling out, but there's no one actually there doing it. There's no person there. It's just automatic. Ball lands, technology sees it as out, and then you hear someone yell out, but it's a different voice than whoever is calling the service line. It's weird, right? So never going back. Is it even worth discussing? I mean, it's never going back. How much worse will it get? I say worse. How much more room is there for replay to move in on sports? And if we think it's good, and sports always seems to think it is because it keeps coming and they keep adding to it, then maybe whatever, I don't know what it is right now as I talk, but there probably will be more ways. We've got basketball, we've got was it a foul, we've got when did the ball land out of bounds to the 10th of a second, we've got when was the timeout called. I guess it's the whole two words, right? It takes more than 0 seconds to say timeout. You got to say it fast. How much time is left on the clock or needs to be put on the clock when that happens? And there's probably other things. And is there anything else that we could still find where we could actually just, change it so we could review that? Hockey with the offside. Hockey with the offside might be the worst. I've got a fast game, and I've got a play where a goal is scored, and probably once the puck enters the zone, there's lots that happened between then and the goal being scored, or at least usually. But if that one fraction, if the part of the puck, if the whole puck is in, I got 82 games and 7-game series. If it were to, God help us, if it were to happen in the playoffs, at least I got 7-game series, 82 games to weed out half the league from postseason competition, yet throughout, in hockey games, I've got to have this offside challenge because, man, if I don't, think of what could happen. There'll be a goal that counts that shouldn't have because somebody's skate lace was across the line and we didn't even know it at the time, but now we have the cameras, so and so a goal would count that shouldn't. And I mean, just imagine the effect this one goal will have on the fate of the season. It's massive. Remember talking to Tim Murray, former Sabres GM, about the offside challenge. I want to say he was here when they put that in, or else I'm not sure why we would have been talking about it. And I don't know if this was on the air or off. We did have occasion to hang with him from time to time, away from the show. But Bulldog has been, it's almost like I'm trolling Bulldog today by talking. I'm not going to do this the whole day. I've got guests coming up very soon. But almost like I'm trolling him by his first day off here of a few coming up, and I'm starting on replay, which is like his least favorite thing in sports. But he and I think we're together, probably we were, why not, with Murray about the offside challenge. I remember Murray, I was thinking about this recently for some other reason. Maybe I think of it every time there's an offside challenge in the NHL. But he defended it. And I think he probably spoke for most managers, most people in the NHL. No, hardly any fans probably, but it's got to be the minority of fans. But I would think the majority, because it exists, of the people who run hockey. And he said to us, "You've never lost a game on a bad call." I have, right? I work here. I've lost a game on a bad call. You don't know that feeling. And I kind of think I do. Because I want him to win just as much, arguably, potentially as him, as he does. And we can remember bad calls, so I just never liked that logic. You've never you don't even know, whether you're a fan or a GM, how many, like a number of how many calls could be made in an NHL game that aren't, or ones that are made that shouldn't have been. I mean, it's going to be a big number for every game because it's so close. The players are so good, it's so fast, and you're trying to, do as much interfering or hooking as you can without getting a penalty. So, it would be just a huge number in any game. Yet we pick this one out. He did say, "You've never lost a game on a bad call," but I would say politely to him, you've lost and won all your games of your career have come with these quote bad calls that we just don't even realize or care about in the end. And that's what a lot of this stuff that replay covers now, I think, should be like it used to be. All right. I feel a little bit old man yelling at clouds on that one, but I don't want to be numb to it. I think it's okay to be like, hey, this has gone pretty far here with replay. And the tournament brings that out in me as a casual fan that watches the end of these games and just like, just end it. Who cares? Move on. Let's go. Coming up next, Scott Barrett from Fantasy Points. We're going to talk about the rookies. Not so much in a fantasy context, but just like skill position guys coming into the draft, starting with Travis Hunter, what we think will happen. Sal will join me at 4. Glad to have you along. Look forward to hopefully hearing from some of you later. 803-0550 is the number. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
Jones, Jefferson, Belderman, 3. Oh, wow! Biggest lead for the Cyclones.
Tournament fever. I did a mock draft today. Just wanted to put myself in a good mood on a sunny Friday. It's pretty hard to not get a good grade on these mock drafts online. It's pretty hard. They tell you, here are a half a dozen or so reasonable options for you in this as you are on the clock, as the Bills or anybody in these drafts. You sort of take whoever's at the top. You're getting a B at worst. Although I did get that F yesterday for one pick. I still can't explain it. Speaking of, the real draft, my friend Scott Barrett joins me today on the West Her Hotline. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off. Scott, how are you?
I'm good. What's up? What's up, Mike? Thanks for having me. What's up, Buffalo? Love Buffalo. Happy to be on.
My pleasure. We did talk earlier about some of the things we wanted to get into today, but I'm going to start with something that's not on that list and a trivia question for you, Scott, to put you on the spot. Who was on as a guest the School of Scott yesterday?
Was that you?
Yes, it was me. I gave you an easy one. Yes.
Yeah.
I was on with Theo, who's coming over, eh?
Yeah, hey, we haven't announced that, so you're breaking news right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Free agent, no worries. Free agent signing of the off season by far, best one.
Theo Greminger. So I had a nice time with him on that podcast yesterday. He's been on with us a lot. So Scott,
he's the man.
He is the man. And when I went to Long Island to watch my son play lacrosse a couple of summers ago, he showed up with bagels.
Oh,
I mean,
he's the best.
What a guy. All right, so let's get into some of these draft prospects here. We're a little bit more than a month out, and who better to start with than Travis Hunter? So what do you think happens here with Hunter, Scott, and what should happen? Like, should a team be ready if they're going to draft him as early as, like, the top 5? That seems maybe likely that happens. Would you think he should play both ways full-time right away? Like, is he good enough, do you think, to be great at both?
Listen, the guy won the Heisman Trophy last year. He won the Bolitnikoff Award, best wide receiver in the nation. He won the Bednarik Award, best defensive player in the nation. That's an unprecedented trifecta that will never be repeated again. Basically, he was the best and second best players in college football last year, best player on both sides of the ball. And yeah, I think he's the best player in this draft. I think he's worthy of the 101 pick, even in this day and age of just quarterbacks are so impactful, so important, so valuable. I don't think it's the best quarterback class. And I think this guy is just an absolute freak of nature. And so when you have someone doing the impossible, there's no limit to his upside. There's no limit. You can't put a cap on his potential. And so I think he could do it all. I think he could be the NFL's Shohei Ohtani. I know that's a hot take, but it's just looking at what he's done. He's just defied all the odds. So I don't want to say he can't do that. And I think in a worst case scenario, he's either going to be an elite cornerback or an elite wide receiver for you. And so, I love him from a real NFL standpoint. From a fantasy standpoint, it's a little trickier because maybe the NFL team drafting him doesn't feel the same way I do. And it's like, it's much easier to be a full-time cornerback working in on key packages as a wide receiver than the reverse of that. So like most likely scenario is probably a cornerback who gets like 10 to 15 routes at most per game, and you're not going to move the needle for fantasy if you do that. But this is my favorite player in the draft. I think the second he steps on an NFL field, he's going to be my favorite player in the league. I love me some Travis Hunter.
Well said. I guess you do. I love the idea. We're it's a good life. We're down here at pick 30 every year around there for the Bills, and we can't play around with the idea of a guy like this. But so much content. Whatever market gets him, you have a fun time, a field day talking about him. Do you have a team that you think is the right fit? I've heard how like Vrabel in New England might make sense because like he actually did play both ways himself as a player. You've said he's worthy of the 101 Hunter. Do you have a team you think where he might be best?
I think Patriots are a really good one, but honestly, I think he can go anywhere. You look at Titans wide receivers and cornerbacks. You look at Giants wide receivers and cornerbacks. The Browns, they said they like him as a wide receiver. I really think he's plug and play just about anywhere. Like, even if one of these teams, let's say the Patriots draft him and they're like, no, we view him as a cornerback. It's like, stack him up against Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. Like, I don't know how he's not a two-way player, just because he's the second he gets there, he's your best wide receiver.
Love it.
And you're a great cornerback.
Love it. Scott Barrett, my guest. So he'll be the first receiver drafted because he'll, whether you call him a receiver or athlete, I've seen wide receiver corner. Next probably is Tet McMillan. Is it too much to consider him to say he's controversial? Scott, didn't run at the combine, had the pro day where people were, kind of a few different places on his time. Almost everywhere after Hunter, he's the first receiver I see go. But you had Golden, who ran faster, and a couple of other guys, some often mocked in the first round. Where are you at on McMillan?
He's controversial, but it's so stupid that he is. He's just far and away the best wide receiver in this draft. I mean, it gets complicated with Hunter. Let's just remove him from the equation. But outside of that, McMillan, I think, is worthy of a top 10 overall pick. I don't think there's another wide receiver, again, minus Travis Hunter, coming anywhere remotely close to him. I don't have Matthew Golden as a round one caliber talent. Yeah, he has the speed, although my conspiracy theory is he botched that 40 time because, you look at his face after that run. He was more shocked than anyone else. People are doing this frame tracking, and it kind of looks like it was actually more of a 4.39 than what it actually was. But the thing is, it doesn't even matter. I've written tens of thousands of words on this. Ryan Heath did that for us this offseason. Athleticism is just about basically perfectly irrelevant for the wide receiver position. It's a position where, certain intangibles like route running prowess just matter so much more. If you look at all round two wide receivers drafted the past 12 years, the slower you are, the shorter you can jump, the better you're going to be from an NFL. So it's negatively correlated, negatively predictive. And then you look at the top 30 fastest wide receivers since 2000 to participate at the combine. Only one of those has ever had a 1,000-yard season in the NFL. That was Santana Moss, and otherwise it's just littered with the most overdrafted players, the biggest busts. And so I literally did not care what he ran, and I thought it was a good time. Weight adjusted, height adjusted, that was a fine time. But outside of that, just love him. Freakishly productive, hyper efficient. You're talking about from a dynasty perspective for fantasy, it's just this running back class is so stacked. I love the tight ends. Is the only wide receiver. I might go just about all of my drafts with either 0 or 1 wide receivers, and that one wide receiver would be Tet McMillan.
Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of how you want to do it, right? To stay on fantasy for a minute is just load up on running backs, and this looks like kind of the perfect year for that.
Yeah, you could just take a shotgun blast approach with these running backs, and you're not going to miss. They're just too good. Our film expert Brett Weisfield, who has the most insane hit rate I think of anyone working in this space from a film perspective, he said he had Jonathan Brooks, I think, as his RB1 last year, and he has 9 running backs with a film grade higher than Brooks last year.
Wow. Yeah, pretty good. Before we get to running backs, I want to ask you about 2 specific receivers here still. One is, and I saw you and Brett talking about him recently, Alec Iomanner from Stanford. I see the Bills, Scott, as late second. They have 2 late second round picks. They have no thirds, but 3, they've got a lot of Saturday picks too. This guy's interesting to me, and your analysis with Brett is part of the reason, I admit. I wonder where he goes. He's probably not a first-round pick, although maybe you think there's some chance of that.
Brett thinks so, and Brett's track record again is insane. He'll go out on an island and he'll say, "No, this guy should go round 1," and he's a mid-second. No, lo and behold, some team takes a chance on him, and that's Brett's wide receiver 2. It's tight between his wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 5. again, not a great class, and Ted far and away wide receiver 1. Again, removing Travis Hunter from the equation. But like I was expecting to go into this show debating him on it because it was such a controversial take. But the more I dug into Ayomanor, the more I liked, and like the more I dug into everyone else, the more I disliked. So like I wasn't mad at his wide receiver 2 overall ranking at all. His offense didn't do him any favors. His quarterback didn't do him any favors. His offensive coordinator didn't do him any favors. And when you factor that in, like historically low catchable target rate, you factor in, all of his production coming from out wide with no screens. What he did was pretty astounding. And so, I wanted to hate on it because, I love my debates with Brett, but I wasn't mad at that at all. And according to Brett, the film was excellent, and there's so much more upside beyond that because he only played one full game of football from his junior, senior high school seasons and first season at college at Stanford. He also was Canadian, and he had to move to an American high school. And so he's a bit raw. There's untapped potential. He's a track star. I like his upside. He's already winning routes, can separate. So to me, like a plus version of Keon Coleman is who I'd say he'd be.
Okay. Speaking of Canadians who moved to the States to finish their high school careers, Josh Palmer is on that probably relatively short list. I know he's not a rookie here, but he's the Bills' biggest offensive signing, if not biggest signing so far this month. Where are you at on Palmer? I know the separation score that I've seen at Fantasy Points likes him.
That's right. We have our custom stat average separation score. And he's been an ass guy for us for a number of years where, people will come at us for it because, I'll post the top 15, and it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown. Yeah, this all makes sense. And then you'll see Josh Palmer's name there. And they're like, yeah, what happened with it? And it's just like, hey, this is what our numbers are saying. Like, he can separate. He can beat man coverage. And that is so desperately what Buffalo needed. They did not have good separators. That was my concern with Keon Coleman. He was not separating last year. Khalil Shakir can do that, but a lot of that's, we don't really give him too much credit for just, finding the soft spot in zone, but just actually beating a quarterback 1v1. And so he doesn't have gaudy production or anything like that, but he does have the one thing that this offense was desperately lacking. And this was my argument for Josh Allen for MVP over Lamar Jackson. And this blew up on Twitter was, you look at cumulative team ass, Buffalo is bottom 5, Baltimore far and away number 1. And so, he just did not have the receiving talent that Lamar had. I mean, Zay Flowers and company, they're not brand names, but they're great separators. Rashad Bateman, really good against man end zone. And Buffalo just didn't have that, and I think that's a key piece that they needed. And I don't expect any of these wide receivers to put up gaudy numbers, but just in terms of a team standpoint, I think this is what you were lacking, and you're going to see the benefit from that this season.
Well, I'd enjoy at some point this offseason, Scott, talking to you just about the Bills and the Bills offense, because I was confounded last year by how it went. I mean, they set a franchise record in points. Allen wins the MVP with his lowest ever average depth of target or air yards, and there were so many contradictory things happening. Here's Cook, where a lot of his numbers were not better than the year before, but he went from 2 rushing touchdowns to 16 last. Just craziness. There's some reason, I think, to believe that maybe the Bills are headed for some contract difficulty with Cook.
Oh, yeah. Let's draft some running backs. What Cook is asking for is double what I think he is worth. So, yeah, let's draft some running backs, Buffalo.
Well, you've got Davis here, who was okay, fine as a rookie, Ty Johnson. But, man, in this draft, Scott, right, by the time you get to Saturday, if not Friday night in rounds 2 and 3, there should still be a lot to like.
Oh, yeah. Day 3 is still going to be stacked. And, again, shotgun blast to the running back approach. It is, just throw a dart and you're not going to miss. These guys are too good. This class is too deep. The way I've been describing it is it's like a typical draft class for the running back position, but multiplied by 2.5 in terms of like top end talent, in terms of depth. And you have like, your own, like whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for a big bruiser, this class has it. If you're looking for like a scat back plus, this class has it. If, a potential bell cow, this class has it. So, I'd highly recommend Buffalo, and I'm sure they will. I think a lot of teams that even are set at the position, this class is too good, and rather than draft for need, just best player available, you're going to see some teams have like a really good RB1, a really good RB2, and even a pretty good RB3.
I've been waiting for teams to do that. I know every year is different in terms of the talent in the draft, but to go into Saturday and pick a running back and then just like sort of count on that player, at least competing for a starting job or even being the starter, it hasn't really happened. I mean, last year we had veterans around the league get signed, and a lot of them stayed healthy and did great. Bucky Irving was somebody who was a Saturday pick and eventually I think he was undeniable, and people point to the draft capital and be like, as a fantasy player, well, I mean, what can you really expect? I want the league to get to a point where Saturday running backs, it would be right to expect the team that drafted them to like use them, and maybe this is the year for that, given the depth of talent.
Yeah, and you part of that is because the NFL became woke to positional value, but it's also like swung the other way. Like we're kind of living in the post spread era, and there was like a major running back resurgence where Saquon Barkley got paid and he just got paid again and had this insane year, and Derrick Henry was right behind him, and running the ball is becoming more important, more valuable in today's post-spread era, and teams are kind of cognizant of that.
Scott, before I let you go, Byshul Tootin is one of these running backs who I saw in a tweet of yours compares in a certain way, right on the Bijan Robinson level. That was a top 10 overall pick and an elite prospect, but Tootin has kind of won me over as one of these backs that might be sneaky good.
Yeah, I don't want to go tooting my own horn here.
Here we go.
Sorry. But yeah, my model had him as I don't know, the fifth best running back in this class before the combine, when industry consensus was he was like a round 6 pick, but he leads the all power conference running backs, so you remove Ashton GP that way, in career missed tackles forced per touch, career yards after contact per attempt. Those are two of the best metrics we have. And then he has just absolutely freakish speed and athleticism. I have my own custom athleticism score, SPORQ, SPORQ. The only running backs more athletic than him since 2000 to participate at the combine: Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Stewart, A.J. Dillon. So freak athlete, and he has those numbers. He also has like horrific fumbling issues and maybe a few other minor red flags, but I love him.
We could work around that. Very good. Well, you've covered a lot here, Scott. Please take this opportunity, if you'd like, to sort of pump up fantasy points. There's so much data there. It's good for uploading your dynasty teams and comparing with teams in your league, and just a lot of other uses.
Yeah, my articles are still a couple of weeks away. Got to wait on Dane Brugler to give me verified birthdays, which is a crucial point in my model. But Brett Whitefield's film draft guide, based on his film study, that will drop either today or tomorrow. That should be free. So fantasypoints.com, be on the lookout for that. No one does it better than Brett. He said Puka Nacua. He comped Puka Nacua to Justin Jefferson a couple of years ago. I called him crazy. Lo and behold, look at what Puka's done. So insane hit rate for Brett. Check out that, dropping today or tomorrow.
And are you still listening to every word of the post-draft news conferences?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for that.
That's your baby.
You got to get me on right afterwards. I'll have some good stuff for you.
I definitely will try. Thank you, Scott. Have a great weekend.
All right. See you, Mike.
Scott Barrett, CEO Fantasy Points at Scott Barrett DFB. If you follow me on Twitter, I sent out a tweet an hour ago or so that Scott was going to be on today. I love he's one of my favorites because you heard it in the one section about speed at receiver. Anybody who sort of, it's contrarian, at least in terms of common sense, but can prove it. We've had these over the years. I love it when I think of an idea, whatever it is. Fourth downs was this. Now everybody knows. But 10 years ago for me, like I was just fixated on how teams punt too much. And, okay, here's A, B, and C. Like, here's the proof. I'm not a mathematician, but here's why I think I can say it. Here's why I think I'm right. And, you know, that was one where it might have seemed counterintuitive. Like you grow up and the game is played one way, and what is this? What is this madness? Going for two when you're down 14 and you score a touchdown to make it 8. How you should go for 2 on that, which is like, what? You always have to explain that one, and I had to have it explained to me how if you're 50%, which is usually about what you are, to convert on a 2-point conversion, you know, you miss the first one, but you make the second one, and you're right where you'd be if you made 2 extra points. You still have to make, by the way. They're not automatic. If you make the first one, then you're in a position to win the game with your next touchdown, and that reward makes that worth doing. So one of these that I don't get it. Explain it to me. Okay, yeah. Long way to set it up. The list he mentioned when we talked about Iamaner, the Stanford receiver, and I'm not sure that's how you say it, how the guys, or no, it was about McMillan, because we were talking about his time. The guys that run the fastest, like, suck. It's a whole list of John Ross, you know, and how he said exactly, there was one guy out of 30 in X number of years that ran like whatever the combination of speed and something else was Santana Moss, who was good. I don't know specifically what this is. I know Worthy is someone that, I mean, obviously he ran the fastest time ever, right? And he was skinny, so a little bit of an acquired taste. And he got there for Kansas City. He didn't have an incredible season right out of the box. He wasn't Neighbors, but, you know, he looks like he's going to be a good player. He is a good player for the Chiefs. Too soon to bring up Worthy? Remember talking to Scott last year about A.D. Mitchell. Brian Thomas, I think, was another one, and A.D. Mitchell, to be fair. But it was Scott Barrett who sort of like awakened me to, okay, this is his yards per route run, I think it was, is a red flag. And I don't know, like Mitchell for Indianapolis did not have a good season, but there were some moments with him, and maybe he gets there. That's kind of what Coleman was, though, too, who was drafted much earlier, or at least earlier, than Mitchell. He's the one the Bills went with. And you had what would you say? You had a few moments. I might want to talk about him some more today, Keon Coleman. Speaking of receivers here, like what your level of confidence is that he gets there. Mine isn't great, but again, somewhat deferring to Scott and other people that I talked to, was not really excited about that idea last year. A couple guys really were. Who was the one analyst we had, I got to remember, that loved Coleman? There was one guy last year that loved Coleman, but a lot of guys didn't. He was the 8th receiver picked. It wasn't like he was, high first round, but he's important. And if the Bills draft a receiver like this guy from Stanford or someone else in that range, they might come in over the top of the entire depth chart, or at least ahead of Coleman. We'll see. Thanks again to Scott Barrett. Always a treat. Sal Capaccio after sports. The tournament rolls on. We've got Duke way ahead. Duke was minus 50,000 to win. That means a $500 bet on Duke today before the game to beat Mount St. Mary's would have paid you $1. You didn't see me make that take that gamble. They're up 51-24 in the first half. So whoever that person was that bet $500 on Duke to win $1, looking good. Sal after sports. Thanks for listening. Bulldog is off through next week. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
The road trip continues for the Buffalo Sabres even after last night's loss to the Utah Hockey Club. A pair of afternoon games for the Blue and Gold throughout the weekend. Saturday against Minnesota, a 2 o'clock faceoff, and then Sunday at Winnipeg at 3 p.m. Around the NHL, Edmonton's Connor McDavid left last night's game in Winnipeg with a lower body injury. Leon Draisaitl scratched last night with an undisclosed injury as well. According to Frank Saravalli, the Oilers are getting imaging for both of their centers to see further injury status. Alex Ovechkin scored goal 888 last night. The number to break the record for Wayne Gretzky goes down to 7 goals, as Washington became the first team to officially clinch a playoff berth last night. To football, ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Brandon Cooks signed a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Saints worth $13 million. Meanwhile, free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers visited with the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to various sources. Rodgers was released by the New York Jets after 2 seasons. In college hoops, Baylor beating Mississippi State 75-72 with some late game drama. Meanwhile, Alabama survives a little bit of a scare from 15 seed Robert Morris, end up pulling out 90-81. Iowa State all over Lipscomb earlier today, 82-55. Several games going on at the moment. Colorado State, the 12 seed, up 72-61 on number 5 Memphis. Number one Duke coasting 54-28 on 16 seed Mount St. Mary's. Meanwhile, it's Vanderbilt and St. Mary's in the 10-7 game. It's 10 seed Vanderbilt 22-16 in the first half. Finally, the Buffalo Bandits in action tonight against Las Vegas. That is at KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo for a 7:30 faceoff. You could hear that over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. This is WGR.
Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
An update with the results of the day included. Now I'm in 15,375,778th place in the bracket challenge. That was going to be a list of how many fantasy teams? 15,375,778th place. That's not great. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to dig out of that. This does not have to be the year of the perfect bracket for me to be in tough there at 39% tile, sitting here through a day and change. Sal Capaccio joins me now on the West Her hotline. Sal, what kind of, you have your own pool with a lot of people in it, I know that. What kind of tournament action do you have otherwise?
Well, I entered in Trista Crick's Survivor, and I screwed up and didn't read the rules, and I thought it was by round, but it's by day. You have to pick every team every day. So then when I realized that, when I went and checked it today, I'm like, oh, I didn't pick a team today? Well, I'll go pick a team tonight. Then I found out that I was shut out as of 12:15 today. So I'm out.
Is that right?
Can't do anything.
Oh, yep. I'm sorry to hear that. Hers was not...
That kind of stinks.
That does kind of stink. Yeah, hers was one that you could... Like, I entered in that one last night, like before the games had all tipped. So I kind of thought maybe that wouldn't be the case, but I guess it is. That's tough.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, because for me, if then that's the case, I don't know why you could enter in last night if that's the case. I'll go back and look, but it said I'm out, and because I didn't pick a team for day number 2. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, that stinks. My buddy is the head football coach at Hornell High School, so they have a little boosters club thing going to raise some money. So I entered his bracket, haven't checked on that, and then I am running mine, like you said, and I have another one that a buddy of mine in Florida is doing. So a few just to kind of have some fun and play along, I guess.
That's it.
In the one that I'm doing at CBS Sports, you referenced, there was over 1,000 entries, but 694 actually filled the complete entry out, which is still amazing. 694, and I'm in 255th place. My son Max is in 186th. Yana's in 477th. So he's got me by like 70 spots right now.
Yeah, it doesn't sound so bad for at this stage of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got a dark horse winning or no? That was tough this year.
No, I think this year was felt a bit chalky. I have Auburn winning it all. Definitely not dark horse. I do have Oregon going to the Final Four though, so that would be a 5 seed. And a little more of a sentimental pick there. My brother got his PhD out at the University of Oregon. I visited the campus a couple times. So we like Oregon here in this household, so I kind of gave them some love up there.
Very cool. So I was thinking of you when I thought about the NFL schedule, which is what always happens. And is the schedule before the draft?
No.
After?
Schedule's about a week and a half after the draft now.
Okay. So the Bills have these 4 home games: Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Philadelphia. How about this question? Would you predict none of those games is a 1 o'clock game? I think I would.
Ooh, if you gave me the over-under 2.5, I'd say over. But I think saying all 4, it's a tough one for me. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I'd be about 50-50 on that. I think at least 3 of them are not 1 o'clock games. Maybe one of them sneaks in there as a 1 o'clock game.
Okay. Yeah, one of the 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely not Kansas City. That's become, every time it's a late game at the earliest. I would think Baltimore would be that this year. And maybe the Bengals too. I don't know. The Bengals keeping it together there. I feel like they're all just what a year at the stadium, right? Like I know we've talked about this before, but those 4 games, the division rivals and all the nostalgia that will come with that in the final year of the stadium, and then also the Saints and the Bucks. It's going to be a year unlike any other.
I agree. It's going to be a year unlike any other because obviously they're closing the stadium after this year. So we know this is the last year. Hopefully it's not the last game when it comes out as the schedule. Hopefully there's more playoff games. But I think that you have to take that in consideration that it's possible. It's the last time any of these teams will be playing in the stadium unless they do come for the playoffs, obviously. And then on top of that, you just have the opponents, right? It's just a who's who of the best teams in the AFC for sure. And then in the NFC, obviously, the defending Super Bowl champion, the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, this is a really interesting, good, tough slate this year at home.
I thought this was interesting when I thought of it, but then I'm not sure it is because an easy majority of starting quarterbacks are first-round picks, are former first-round picks. But the Bills in 17 games might have 2 games against quarterbacks that are not former first-round picks, being Derek Carr, who was early second by the Raiders, and Jalen Hurts. Those are the only 2. If the Browns, say, go with Pickett and the Rodgers thing happens in Pittsburgh, pretty much every other team, unless there's injuries, but Justin Fields now with the Jets, every other game will be against a former first-round pick quarterback. Probably.
That's home and away. You're right about that, yeah. Because even if the away teams, Michael Penix, obviously, Bryce Young. So you're right.
Baker.
This is Yep, no doubt. This is going to be a really, the quarterback schedule as it is right now, pretty daunting. But some of those guys haven't been, Bryce Young, we'll see what you get out of him. Michael Penix, not enough sample size yet. We'll see. C.J. Stroud had a bit of a down year last year. We know that. But you're right. I think looking historically over the last few years, Mike, there's been some years. I remember a couple of years ago, it might have been like one of the talking points was what quarterbacks did the Bills play? They played all these, lesser quarterbacks. So you get that sometimes, and who knows what happens by the time you actually get to that team and you're playing that team as well.
Right. The offseason to date, Sal, I mean, kind of, it's mostly calmed down here. You still have, Stephon Diggs, who was visiting New England, Rodgers, who I mentioned. You still have some big names out there. But, and we'll see what the Bills come up with at corner eventually here. I'd like to talk about that for a minute as well. The offseason overall, Palmer, Bosa, the other moves. About this time last week, we heard about the PED suspensions. How would you sort of summarize what the Bills have been able to do?
It's interesting to me that they've pretty much just been the same on offense except for one trade out. It's Matt Collins out, Joshua Palmer in. That's it. They did sign Laviska Shenault and Kendrick Green as depth offensive line, Darrington Evans depth running back, but really that's what it is. I mean, Laviska Shenault is here to return kicks, essentially. Joshua Palmer for Matt Collins. That's all they've done on offense. So we could debate whether that's an upgrade or not. I personally think it's an upgrade for the overall volume of the offense. But Matt Collins, that's not disparaging to Matt Collins, who had some nice games. But I think they're going to use Josh Palmer a lot differently and probably more than they thought they would use Matt Collins last year. But I think that's it on offense. And you could say, well, they were a terrific offense last year. There's no doubt about it. So they didn't have to make any changes. And look at all these guys coming back. They're all under contract, especially on the offensive line. On the defensive side, I've been surprised, Mike. I thought they would attack defensive line a little earlier and more aggressive than they did. Now, that said, Joey Bosa was certainly very aggressive, right? But let's be honest. It comes down to a trade. It's Von Miller for Joey Bosa on defense at this point. That's what it is. And if you think Joey Bosa is going to stay healthy, it's certainly an upgrade. He's 6 years younger, but that would be the question. Would he be an upgrade at this point of where they were they are in their careers, by the way? But that's the question, obviously. And then, I'm still wondering what happens at cornerback number 2. And you have some guys out there. Now, this impacts what we heard last week about Hoyt and Ogunjobi. There are several defensive tackles of the Bills last year who are still out there who have not signed anywhere, including Austin Johnson, Jordan Phillips, DeJuan Smoot, who can be his inside, Quentin Jefferson. So there's still time. Even Brandon Beane said that. There's still time here. You have more free agency. You have the draft. You have more free agency after that. It doesn't stop. So I don't think they're necessarily panicking. We haven't seen that. They're just waiting for some markets to settle here. And I'm sure some of the players are doing the same thing who are out there.
And then there's Rasul Douglas, who I kind of want to guess is right in this boat as well. Maybe hoping to do better. But as the days go by, Sal, for any player, you sort of wonder how tepid is the interest in the player by the market. No rush to sign Douglas, evidently. So my guess, I think, is the Bills would take him back at a certain price and that he's trying to beat it. But, another possibility would be that they're just not interested.
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't know. He didn't have quite the 2024 as he did the 2023 in a Bills uniform. We know that. But he's a guy that, he was a full-time regular starter. That was never in question. He had an injury at the end of 2023, but relatively stayed healthy. He's been available. They like that. He is getting a little bit older. He's 31 years old. So, you think about that. When I talked about a trade of Palmer in for Hollins, a trade of Miller out for Bosa in, really what they've done at corner, they've traded Kyrie Elam for Dane Jackson. That's really what they've done. That's all they've done at corner. They've traded Kyrie Elam for Dane Jackson, essentially. That's not good enough outside opposite Christian Benford. Now, I still think, as much as this is right, the conversation and where you've landed about Rasul Douglas is right, and I'm wondering the same thing, Mike. I also think it's really important to wonder what they feel about Jamarcus Ingram. He is a third-year player in their system. Jamarcus Ingram isn't a guy that was like a rookie last year. He's been here for 3 years. And, they've had him here. He's performed well when he's been on the field. He has position flexibility. He's played outside corner. He's played nickel corner. He's played dime safety. I wonder if there's any part of what's going on at One Bills Drive who think, we're going to pencil in Jamarcus Ingram as the starting outside corner. And I'm not sitting here telling you it's a great idea. I think that I'd be even surprised if they do think that. But I wouldn't be totally stunned considering how they develop players, and this guy is going into his 4th year.
So let's say that happens, or that plus a draft pick, even if it's round 1, pick 30, and the Bills basically tell you that it's going to be a competition, these two guys. Maybe it's a better fit if it's a second-round pick. I don't know. It doesn't matter. How plausible an idea is this, or how good of an idea is this? You're hosting Extra Point, and people want to ask, they want to challenge the Bills on this. Do you think you'd be like, has Ingram been good enough where you'd want to defend that?
I have not seen enough of him to say he is. He has. I like what I've seen. I've always come on here and promoted Jamarcus Ingram as someone that I think can play. This goes back to 2023. I've said with you guys since 2023, I would come on here with you guys and say, man, I really like Jamarcus Ingram. I think he's got a shot to make the team. I think he could push for a spot on the roster. I'd like to see him get a little more opportunity. But that's far different than saying I think he can play and start 17 games. I haven't seen enough from him to do that, to be confident to say yes. And just knowing what I like to do is just to put myself in their position and say, what do I think they're going to do? And it just hasn't screamed to me that they would do something like that. In fact, I would say they probably, judging by how the Bills generally operate, I think they would have Dane Jackson ahead of him. And to me, that's not good enough. So I guess the answer to DeMarcus Ingram would be that's not good enough. I would keep the door open for it, though, Mike, because I do like DeMarcus Ingram. I like his skill set. I like his body type, everything about him. I think it's possible he could wind up being a solid starter. I just think that that's really risky to bank on that right now.
If they did draft a corner at 30, would you think he would be the week 1 starter? Probably.
Yes. I mean, I think at this point, where they are with their team, how close they've been, knowing they don't have a lot of spots to fill, that's one of them. You draft a guy at that spot, I think it's considering it's like, to me, like one of the only open roster spots on the roster, the starting spots, I would probably put him there, yeah. And I don't think that's the case with every first-round pick, though. If they draft a safety in the first round, I'm not saying that. I know it sounds wild to people. I remember last year, Mike, draft night, day 2 of draft night, the Bills drafted Cole Bishop. And I wrote and I tweeted, I think Cole Bishop is a Saran Neal replacement, I think is what I wrote. He's a Saran Neal replacement for now, which is he can get you into certain spots he can play. You're going to put him on the field in certain situations. He's going to be a really solid special teams contributor, but he's not going to be starting. And I'm telling you, I got killed for it by Bills fans because they think if you draft a guy at that spot, he better be a starter or it's a wasted draft pick. It's not the case. This is a far different team than, say, the New England Patriots. It's a far different team than, say, the Carolina Panthers. There are not many spots you can just draft a guy, even at 30, and put him immediately into the starting lineup. But corner would be one of them for me. I think corner is a spot that if you take a guy there, to me, I'm thinking that guy has a very, very legitimate shot to be the starter.
Right. Not only is it not a team with a lot of holes, like you said, but likewise, it's a late pick. So there's a pretty big difference between, Travis Hunter going 4th, say, and Maxwell Hairston as cornerback 4, say, going 30th. Sal Capaccio with me for a few more minutes here on the West Her Hotline. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today. Keon Coleman, Sal, I chatted with Scott Barrett earlier on the show about draft wide receivers and Palmer a little bit and what the Bills have or could want. And, Coleman's name came up. How high are the stakes here with Coleman going into next year? Obviously, first pick of the second round, we know all that. I wonder sort of like what you might think is right to expect from him in year 2 based on what you know and what you've seen. And, with Shakir signed and with Kincaid and, now Palmer, I wonder what the Bills are really ultimately going to need from Coleman.
I think there's been a bit of an overreaction to the things that have been said, especially by Sean McDermott, which he's been a little bit more, I'd say, critical and harsh of Keon than we've heard him of other people. I think that some have taken a lot of that and maybe think to mean that they're out on him. They're not going to give it as much of an opportunity. They want to draft over him, whatever. I don't think that at all. I think Keon Coleman has first dibs here, if that makes sense. I think Keon Coleman is, hey, kid, you're up. Let's go. Let's see what you can do. We draft you in this spot. We talk to you about what we need from you. You got to go out there and show it. Now, it's up to him if he can be that player. I have had a good debate going with Matt Bove on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Matt believes that the Bills very well could draft a wide receiver with their first pick. I do not. I think it would be very surprising to me. I mean, they would have to really, really love a guy and say he's going to be on the field. And I respect Matt for saying it, but my opinion is, look how this team operates normally. Where is that guy as a 30th pick? Unless they trade it up, that's different, into a really good spot. Where is that guy as the 30th pick playing? And the only spot that you would say that he'd really maybe have a chance to go in and play right now is over Keon Coleman. They just signed Joshua Palmer to $8 million a year. Now, Curtis Samuel is also making $8 million. You could say, they're not as high on him. That's fine. He's probably number 4, though, on the list. So if you really draft a receiver, you have to believe that you have to believe that Keon Coleman's not going to make that step. I just don't think they believe that. I think they're going to give him every opportunity and believe because of how they operate that Keon Coleman will take that step.
And thus we have today's daily reminder that Curtis Samuel is on the roster and getting good money. And this is a me problem. I'm not saying everybody has to have forgotten about Samuel, but I always do. I just always do. And every time I think about the collection at that position, I just don't even think about Samuel. I mean, he's under contract. It's good money. And there was a little bit of the injury excuse last year. Man, could that really be something at this point? Could they turn to a healthy, presumably Curtis Samuel, and ask him to play like a big-time role?
It depends on what you mean about big time. I do think they had bigger plans for him last year than how it materialized. And that really was, a lot of it was because of the injury. It's not just the injury. It's because of when the injury occurred. It's the same thing with Cole Bishop. In a lot of ways, these guys are the same. Cole Bishop had an injury in training camp, and he hurt his shoulder, and he missed significant time. And Curtis Samuel had an injury at the end of training camp / preseason. It was that week they went down to Pittsburgh, right around that time. Because you get injured at that time, and then you have to start figuring out what you're doing for the season, then once you get into the season, it's tougher to kind of make up that time. And I just think that's what happened here. It's not just the injuries. I think it's also the timing of the injuries for these guys. I think Curtis Samuel, they had bigger plans for him. Yes, I think they have bigger plans for him again this year. I don't know if we can go to, is he going to be, big time contributor? It's got to be more than it was last year, because right now you're sitting on a 3-year, $24 million deal that has done nothing for you. And I have to believe that they don't just want to be completely divested of that asset as he's sitting on the roster.
Makes sense to me. All right, big weekend for you coming up?
Got a couple hockey games, Max, and we got one tonight, but we're going to wait to the Bandits game after that. So, yeah, should be fun. And, getting ready for the weather to start turning here, and then another week or so going to the NFL owners meetings. That'll be fun with some of the rules proposals, and always fun to kind of get into that kind of stuff.
Can we get all the coaches in the picture this year? The coaches they've been slacking. Last year, they weren't all there. Let's see if you can help. I'd appreciate it. See if you can get some of these guys to sort of focus up and take the picture.
I'll be like that guy that next to the photographer. Hey, everybody, come on! No, hey, pictures are coming. Round in over here.
Yeah.
Calling everybody together. Maybe they'll hear my voice and they'll come over.
It's got to be right now, okay, guys? I mean, just do this for us, and then you can go back to your conversation. All right, well, that'll be cool. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off through next week. The tournament. It wasn't the best day yesterday, was it? There were really not that many exciting finishes. I liked the Kansas-Arkansas game last night, but really the late window, right, wasn't too exciting, too dramatic. I liked the Baylor game today. That was close and good. Love a guy who, I don't know names. I don't follow the sport as closely as I would need to, but you hear about these guys who scored. There was a guy on Arkansas for this. There was a guy on Baylor today for this, a freshman who just sort of play a kind of a mid-role, but they show up in the tournament, 20-plus points. It feels like they're making everything, make every free throw. Love a guy who can rise to that, especially when they're younger. Just, I am here, I am up to this, and I'm going to do it. And we have a couple of those performances, probably several so far. Duke way ahead. Colorado State wins. That's not an upset. I saw the word upset on CBS because that's a 12 seed over a 5. They were favored. So upset is the wrong word. Let's get back to the Bills. 803-0550 is the number. Or the Sabres. I haven't gotten into the Sabres scoring on themselves and losing last night. But some of the topics there with Sal. Keon Coleman and Scott Barrett. Rookies. Would you want the Bills to draft a running back? Would you want them to draft a receiver? Do we all in here maybe instead tend to just go crazy with the wide receiver stuff and maybe, Samuel included in the calculus? Maybe you think they're all set. Would love to know. I don't have Bulldog to talk to. 803-0550 if you want to join me. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
Sabres road trip continues on despite last night's loss to the Utah Hockey Club. The Sabres have a pair of afternoon games during this weekend, first one being tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild. Face-off at 2 p.m. Pre-game will start at 1 o'clock tomorrow here on WGR. Around the NHL, Edmonton's Connor McDavid getting an MRI for a lower body injury after leaving the game against Winnipeg last night. All of the imaging recording is according to Frank Saravalli. To football, Aaron Rodgers reportedly visiting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. According to numerous sources, Rodgers was released from the Jets after 2 years there. The Saints have signed wide receiver Brandon Cooks to a 2-year deal worth $13 million. The Bandits in action tonight against Las Vegas at KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo. That's a 7:30 faceoff. You can hear that on our sister station, The Bet 1520. Meanwhile, college hoops, we've got a couple of games going on at the moment. It is halftime between Vanderbilt and St. Mary's. Vandy up 29-22. North Carolina against Ole Miss in a 6-11 matchup. It's Ole Miss 30-16 on the Tar Heels. Duke coasting as the 1 seed over Mount St. Mary's. It's 63-38 for the Blue Devils. Those are your sports headlines. Is brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. This is WGR.
A high stick in front doesn't appear to have been called. Yeah,
give him the puck.
Give him the puck.
Give him the puck.
Sabres throw it away, and this is going to maybe go into the net, off the boards. Oh, my goodness, it did.
Give him the puck.
How many times have you thought it just can't get any worse? I don't think I've ever heard Rob yell like that. I mean, I can't. Who could blame him? Hockey sense maybe came to mind there. But the poor Sabres. I mean, you could literally sit around and try to think of new ways, new embarrassing moments and losses, whatever. And that would be one where, like, okay, that could happen. It's not too ridiculous, not too crazy, so that would be a good one. On the power play, no less, already. Down 1 late. The game was tied pretty late, but they give up the goal for the 3-2 lead for Utah. And just a pass to nowhere ends up all the way banking in off the boards into their own net. Rob yells, "Give them the puck." I don't know. Like, what's after that? Literally turning and shooting the puck directly into your net? Instead, is that the next level up from or down from that? I don't know. I mean, Bulldog has said it. I think we all feel it, or most of us do, or many of us do, with the Sabres anymore. It's just the worst case scenario should be that the team is bad and you still want to sort of dig into it and figure out what needs to change, and you get a lively conversation about just, how to do that. Trades, coaching changes, different things with the Sabres. But I find that it's just been so long that people really don't want to have the conversation anymore, or just don't have the strength or the stomach to, here and there, we do it. But Bulldog has said how, like, when he gets into his Sabres rants, often, like, that would really fire people up. And anymore now, it's just, like, dial tone. Anybody know what a dial tone is? So we still know what a dial tone is. So, like, just that's one example. It's interesting, but it's just been too much losing, too hard to maybe imagine a move, an idea, anything kind of turning it. I do think it's an interesting choice what they've been doing lately with their roster. We got into this a little bit late yesterday, and Paul will join me at about 5:30. I'm not sure we'll have this exact conversation, but what they're doing now is re-signing the guys whose contracts were coming up. They have one unrestricted free agent left, and that is James Reimer, which, whatever. So Zucker, Greenway, and Bryson, the Sabres gave them all new deals. And that has them in a position where next year there could be trades, but we know how that tends to go. There should be, but the Sabres aren't really good at making trades. So you're going to have a team that will look a lot like this team. Maybe it's a different coach. I wonder how that will play out. Like, will it be Lindy's call? Can it be 100% his call? I don't know. I wonder, coming from a starting point where I wondered about, like, if he was like 100% in on this challenge. And I mean that respectfully. He said things, and he came across, in my mind, at the beginning and at different times during the season, as if he wasn't, like, how do I say it in a way that doesn't sound like too critical? All in, I guess. Like, sort of the way you have to just pour yourself into a job, into a challenge. He just seems like he's gotten older, and I don't know if it's probably not fair to say. I'm sure anybody like Lindy himself or a lot of people would push back on it. And I'm not saying he's not, like, doing his job, so to speak. I just wonder, like, how much energy he has for this. And now that this season has just gone about as badly as it could have, does he want to come back for another one? Do the Sabres want to have him back for another one? Who will decide that? I don't know. It's just so depressing, right? Year after year, we say it. The weather gets good. The season gets interesting. Not everybody's, like, so into the NHL season from day one. You get to the tournament, then after the tournament, and it's playoff races and potential matchups and everything that we love. I mean, can you even remember going to a playoff game? How hard is it to, like, put together who you went with, who played? It's just insane. We went through this with the Bills too, of course, but I'd have to, like, it was such, like for you, probably, it was just such a great big thing in your life. The hockey playoffs have a way of just consuming you all day, waiting for the game. Just, you live for it. The last time they were in the playoffs was 2011, almost 14 years ago. And let's see, Philadelphia, like, I kind of have to work at it, rather. Philadelphia, Game 6 was an afternoon game. I did not go to Game 6. Didn't realize that someone in my group had tickets but didn't know it, so the seats went unused for Game 6 of that series. Maybe kind of fitting looking back as it's been this long. Game 4, I think, was the game that they might have won 1-0, and I think I sat here, and I think I was with my wife, and I don't know anything else. Who else went? What we did before, after, nothing. Like, it's just so long ago. And 06, 07, those 2 years, not maybe anymore, but the memories were so vivid for so long, just all the details and everything. Just, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm making an interesting point. I'm telling you that the Sabres have gone a long time since being good, which you knew and probably don't appreciate being reminded of. They scored on themselves last night in the end to, and lost to Utah. Tomorrow and Sunday, games coming up this weekend on the road. They're home Tuesday and Thursday next week. Like I mentioned, Paul will join me later. We'll keep it light. Tournament going on, NFL draft coming up. The schedule after that. I think a lot about the schedule. I think a lot about last year at the stadium. I sort of geek out trying to figure out how I want the order to go. Mentioned to Sal, Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles. All home games for the Bills next season. Do you think any of them would be a 1:00 game? Sal thought maybe one. I could see that, but I kind of think it might be one at the most. We've got that to talk about too, whatever else is on your mind, considering the NFL, Aaron Rodgers supposedly in Pittsburgh. We'll see if there's news on that as we go. 803-0550 to join me. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. Some of you are getting excited to go see the Bandits tonight, 7:30 downtown against Las Vegas. Then at Albany tomorrow, I believe. CW23 has TV coverage of the Bandits tonight, and we have them on the bet 15-20. Getting geared up for lacrosse, outdoor. My son is a player. We spend a lot of time as a family driving to games. Love it. It's that time in our lives and his where it's really kind of been a break between winter sports and then now the spring sports. You know, if you're a parent, started to rev up practices, and then in his case, you'll have games like next week. It was so warm. We've had these few really summery early spring or pre-spring days here. But we know, he and I talked about it. Remember playing in the snow last year a few times. We were super cold. That's probably inevitable. But I'm excited for the season. It's a great sport. And maybe I'll see you out there in one of these games. So Bandits tonight, and the tournament, of course, continuing. Got my daily reminder about Curtis Samuel on the Bills roster. Do you have a move? I asked Sal to kind of sum up the offseason, the free agency stuff. Not that it's literally over, but they've got a cornerback quandary here to figure out, and I wonder what they think will happen. We don't really know. But what's your favorite move so far? I want to talk about Palmer again, because we are wide receiver obsessed around here. I'm going to say Bosa would be my favorite move, but it's in a specific way. We'll see if he can really help them. What the Bills will need from, this is probably the least they will need from Joey Bosa is big plays, which, certain spots in games, game on the line, and of course, best of all would be in the postseason. So he's got to make it to the postseason. Very similar to the Von Miller, expectations, I think, as many have said. So I think he's the kind of guy, he's a star. And the Bills signing a star like that is always fun. I don't think we have to look at this, or even like Von, although Von had such a huge contract that there's no chance it'll work out. They're too old or anything like that. I don't feel that way, but they got to be careful with Bosa, and I expect that they will be. So I'll say him for my favorite move. Some people liked Michael Hoyt. The suspension puts a damper on that, of course. Ogunjobi, and then some other smaller things. Palmer, I accept how his skill set, everybody says it, that has analyzed him, that has studied him, knows who he is. Everybody says the same things, which is he's just what they need. Which is great. It makes sense, right? Palmer makes sense. Everybody tells you that. And I don't say different. I just think it still isn't a receiver on a certain level that changes games. It's ironic because Allen won the MVP. They're coming from a pretty bad place in terms of downfield efficiency and production last year. It's amazing. It always will be amazing to think about that being his MVP season. Maybe he'll have others, but to this point. Because I read this from Pro Football Network. For Allen, it was the lowest average depth of target of his career. And we saw that, I think, ultimately kind of do them in the end with Kansas City. Everything was just so short, or even behind the line of scrimmage. 8.2 air yards for the season was Allen's average pass. 8 yards downfield. Some mid to deep, and then a lot short to offset that. And when he did throw deep, from Pro Football Network, passes of 15 air yards, Allen completed 40%, which was his lowest percent since 2019. That's his second year. That's the Houston playoff loss season. And it placed him 27th in the league. For him to win, and I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, for him to win in a year where downfield stuff just was not working, and, your leading touchdown receiver had 5, who was Mac Hollins, by the way. It's just kind of amazing that could have been possible. 803-0550. What's your favorite move they've made, and what do you need next? Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off to your calls after sports here on WGR.
The road trip continues for the Buffalo Sabres after last night's 5-2 loss to the Utah Hockey Club. What's ahead for the Sabres? A pair of afternoon games throughout the weekend. Saturday against Minnesota, that's a 2 o'clock face-off. Sunday against Winnipeg, that would be at 3 p.m. Around the NHL, Alex Ovechkin scored goal 888. The number to break Wayne Gretzky's record goes down to 7 goals. Washington became the first team in the NHL to clinch a playoff berth last night. Meanwhile, Edmonton's Connor McDavid left last night's game in Winnipeg due to a lower body injury, while Leon Draisaitl was scratched last night with an undisclosed injury as well. According to Frank Saravalli, the Oilers are getting some imaging done for both McDavid and Draisaitl to see the extent of their injuries. To football, free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers visited with the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to various sources. Rodgers was released this offseason by the New York Jets after 2 years there in New York. Wide receiver Brandon Cooks has signed a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Saints, that for $13 million. To hoops college basketball, as March Madness, the first round continuing on here today. Duke coasting over Mount St. Mary's 91-47. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt and St. Mary's, it is Vanderbilt right now up 42-36 in the 10-7 matchup. Meanwhile, it's halftime between Ole Miss and North Carolina. Ole Miss holding a pretty dominant lead so far on this one as well, 44-26. And a game just getting started between Grand Canyon and Maryland, a 4-13 matchup. Maryland up 11-7 in the first half. This update is brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Schopp.
Name any word in less than a second. I will tell you how many letters are in it. But I cannot do anything mechanically. I don't even know how to put a game together for 3-year-olds.
And the Bulldog.
Fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
North Carolina looking very much like a sucker bet. Down 18 at the half to Ole Miss. I bid on the sucker bet. Maybe, they'll come back and this won't be the case. But they get in the tournament. People freak out. Shouldn't be there. Although, to my ears, I heard a lot of, yes, they should. They're actually good enough to be there. So there was a discussion. They have to play in the play-in game on Tuesday night. They win by 100 against somebody on Tuesday. And okay, well, now we're cooking. Carolina. Not yet. Today, are they cooking? They're getting cooked. Down 18 to Ole Miss. So that feels like maybe I should have known better. Go the other way, Mike. Let's go to Johnny here. Hi, Johnny. Johnny, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
Just in time.
Anyway, one of the things I want to talk about the off-season, not necessarily an addition, but one thing I definitely want to see is the improvement from Dalton Kincaid. And I don't know if it's more of a product of the types of plays that were being called for him, because it seemed like every time he caught the ball, it was in or around the line of scrimmage there, like a little flare pass off to the side, a screen, something like that. But, watching him in college, especially that one game he had against USC, being a USC fan, and betting that game, I just remember him absolutely killing me and killing USC. But, a lot of these passes were downfield. He, beating linebackers, and I don't know if that's just USC's defense being bad in college and going against some of these awful Pac-12 defenses. And so when it gets to that NFL talent level, the linebackers and these safeties are a little quicker, more physical, but it just feels like, he's kind of that. His prototype just feels like he's a perfect tight end for Josh Allen. Like, it's an athletic, rangy guy who can make some plays downfield, go up and get the ball. And I just didn't see that at all last year, and maybe it was injury, but this is a first-round draft pick who I was really hoping would, splash, especially in the playoffs. I'm like, okay, he might be healthy now. Let's get him going. And it just didn't happen. So that's really where I want to see the improvement.
Well, that makes sense to me. Is the story, if you're a USC fan, was the story of that one game that they were using somebody on him that wasn't even a defensive player or something? I don't know if you know that story, but
so they just, from my outside look, the story that I saw was they just made absolutely zero adjustments. They said, "Okay, let this guy beat us, and let's leave everybody else was covered except it seemed like Kincaid, and they didn't. They made zero adjustments defensively, and kind of just stuck in this. It appeared that they were in zone defense the majority of the game, and these linebackers or whoever was playing on them just were absolutely getting just cooked up the ball. So I don't know the exact story. If you heard there was a but
I got to check. I got to check with my guy on this. I will find out, Johnny. So. I host a podcast every week called ADP Chasing for fantasy players, and this week, Tuesday, on the show, Davis Maddock, one of the guys, he's he's not a Kincaid fan, and he mentioned Kincaid, and he brought up something about that, and he said, where would he have been drafted had it not been for that one game against USC? The game the caller is talking about. October 15th, 2022, 16 catches for 234 yards and a touchdown. Like, this would be the biggest receiving game for anyone in Bills history, right? 16 for 234 and 1 was Kincaid against USC. He had two other 100-yard games that year. And otherwise, like, he had 99 also. Like, he had a good season with that one blow-up game. But it's not, like, amazing. Like you will get in college sometime. This is a tight end, not a receiver, but you will get, these huge stats. And he didn't really do that, but he had the one big game. I don't know the answer to the question. The caller said, seems like he should be sort of the perfect fit with Allen. I get that. But it is true, especially as a rookie, at the beginning of his rookie season, everything at the line of scrimmage. And then last year, that's just kind of how they played. Just mentioned the stat about downfield passing and how just unproductive the Bills were. I don't want to say bad exactly. You do have an MVP quarterback, but just they could not really throw the ball deep well at all. They ranked near the bottom of the league. So what is Kincaid going to be, I think, is the question now. That huge game in college, it's a long time ago. Last year, he played most of the season. He had a high of 53 yards. And I think he has 4 touchdowns for his career. Not great. What is he going to be? The Bills, after the season, as you may remember, said, McDermott, if not also Bean, that they want Kincaid to get stronger. And I don't think that's great for his prospects as this player that you want him to be and that I wanted him to be when they drafted him. Getting stronger is not going to mean, seam routes. It's going to mean that maybe they want him to play with his hand down or just sort of be – it's not just like how he's used, but, holding up over the course of a season, things like that too. So it doesn't have to be a bad omen for how he's used, but I'll say again, I've said it like all the time for a year. Coming out of the 23 season, we might not have liked just sort of what the Bills' offense was for downfield passing, but you can't say it didn't work. And that's when, like, you have the game against Dallas. That came up yesterday. Allen might have had 7 completions in that game, less than 100 yards. It was all Cook. And they beat Kansas City and they beat Dallas. And they beat Miami to win the division. This is 2 years ago. And then they win a playoff game before losing the home game to the Chiefs. What are the Bills going to take away from all that? Exactly what it looked like they did, which was this is a winning recipe. And that meant we didn't need Diggs anymore. We didn't need Davis anymore. We can play, smash mouth, Alec Anderson, 6 linemen, and win. And they did. And they won. Like, that's what it was. And where does that leave Dalton Kincaid? Just kind of in the middle, like not playing a super important part in that. He is a receiver with a tight end office plate, and they didn't really – nobody got off in terms of the receivers last year. Shakir was the best of any, and that was still, like, just good for it by an NFL standard. Anyway, where are we going with Kincaid? Johnny, the caller, is like, I want more. I hope you get it. But getting stronger and again another season where they played a certain style that wasn't exactly perfect for him and went to the AFC Championship makes me wonder if that's about to change. Like, why would they do that? And the roster isn't really changed. The offense, anyway, isn't really changing at all. It's Palmer for Hollins. Cooper's out, assuming he's not brought back. There'll maybe be a skill position player from the draft. Otherwise, I think it's going to be the same because, again, the bottom line is, wouldn't the Bills think, why should we change? We went a long way this way. We set the franchise record in points. I still worry. I don't know. Like, maybe it's something about me. I still have my doubts. Kincaid hasn't really amounted to a lot. Coleman didn't amount to a lot. Shakir is good. Palmer might be good. Cook is good. Put that all together. Allen is so great that he can carry all that, and the line stays together and is excellent, durable, all those good things. You could have that season again. Why not? But I think it's a little it's a lot for me to sort of like sit back in my chair and tell you that I expect, another that kind of level of offensive production. Turnovers play into that, schedule plays into that. It's not much to say it will be hard to repeat that season. That's not really much to say, but it's kind of how I'm feeling. Here's Carl next. Hi, Carl.
Hey, my issue with that is just with Kincaid is I don't understand why they drafted him. Why draft a guy to play basically wide receiver, but he's not a wide receiver? It makes no sense to me. I could see if he had some upside as a tight end where he could block or do anything, but he gets destroyed in blocking. I just don't feel like he has a place, and he's taking targets away from somebody who could be more dangerous.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, Carl. Like, the idea when they drafted him, it was like Ken Dorsey wanted to do it, and they were not yet, thank you, by the way, they were not yet this team. They were playing a different way, and that's what they planned on doing. And, the first half of last season was very bumpy. They really couldn't consistently get where they wanted to be, so they make the coordinator change. And I think that left Diggs in the dust. And I think that kind of, to a different extent, left Kincaid in the dust. Who was it good for? It was good for Cook. Cook was really the beneficiary of all this as his career really took off when they made that move. So why did they draft him? They drafted him because they had a different vision than they've had more recently. And I don't know what they would have done, but 4 receivers in a row went right in front of them. I don't know the order. Smith and Jigba was first. Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers were the 4. And, varying degrees of success there. Maybe they wanted one of those guys, or maybe it was Kincaid all along. Sam Laporta went in round 2 and had an incredible rookie season for Detroit. Michael Mayer, who went to the Raiders, was the betting favorite for at least a lot of the preseason, the pre-draft period to be the first tight end picked, and he wasn't. And he's really stuck with Vegas because of Bowers, who they drafted last year and set records. Thanks again, Carl. Frank is next. Hi, Frank.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Happy Friday, by the way.
Yes.
I just wanted to call and say I'm really excited about this Palmer signing. I think he's going to be a great pick for us. He's going to be a fly under the radar star. May not make the most flashiest moves, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get it done. But I'm kind of feeling down about the whole Bosa signing because I'm worried about another aging vet that might be trying to squeeze the last bit of toothpaste out of the tube. But I hope it works out for us, and I just hope that we can probably change direction in the near future and stop picking up on these aging vets. That's all I had to say. Happy Friday, man.
Thanks, Frank. I don't know. There's a place for it. And when there's a place for it is when you're in the proverbial window, right? Like, it's not a bad team wouldn't bother with guys like Bosa and Von Miller, unless it was a bit like the Bills with T.O. or something. But a bad team wouldn't bother. They would just give that spot to someone younger. But, yes, they're trying to squeeze the last of the toothpaste out, which, by the way, no one can beat my wife for that. Absolutely insane to watch. There is just nothing in there. And she will just somehow get a toothbrush's amount of toothpaste onto that brush. Really, it's a magic act. I'm excited about Bosa. I don't know what Palmer's ceiling should be expected to be with the Bills, statistically. I think what you want here is the separator who's going to make a few plays for you a game, keep defenses from just completely thinking they can shut you down out wide, so keep you honest. And, I don't know, 4 catches a week? 4 catches a week for Josh Palmer, if he plays a full season, would come close to a career high and far outdo any other season of his career except his second. His second year in the league, with Justin Herbert, was 72 catches. Otherwise, in chronological order, rookie to now, 33, 38, and 39. The Chargers used him for like 2 to 3 catches a week. And I don't know for sure that the Bills want him to be a lot more than that. I think they want him to be a complementary piece, not in a trivial way, to who else they've got. But I doubt it's me with the fantasy lens. I don't know if I'm ever wanting to start Palmer. We'll see what happens. But that's been one angle, one way of looking at the Bills receivers is like, all right, well, who do you want to put in your lineup? And it was Diggs, of course, like automatically every week. And then last year it was nobody. I mean, Shakir, if you had a team where like he's your third, kind of like what maybe ideally the Bills would be, but if he's like your third receiver, which he was before Diggs and Davis left, if he's your third receiver in fantasy and he gives you 10 or 12 points a week, like that has some value. But really, in most leagues, you're not going to want to start a player like this. I don't think Palmer's going to be any different. Kincaid is the real disappointment, back to him in that context, because Kincaid comes out of the draft as a first-round pick on an Allen team, and they've got like serious plans for him, field stretcher and all that stuff. That's a guy you wanted to draft. It just hasn't hit. Maybe it'll turn. I mean, who knows? The season is so far away, and there's talent in these guys. We'll see philosophically, do they want to be different or whatever it is, but long way from finding out. The draft has to happen first, and then we'll see if they add any pieces to this that could make the analysis different. Talked to Scott Barrett earlier from Fantasy Points about running backs. If you missed that, it's on the Odyssey app. And he is super excited for the running back class. A lot of people are. This is a guy that really knows it. And he said the Bills, it doesn't even almost matter necessarily who the running backs on your team are. That might be weird to say. I say, not speaking for him on that. He might say there are exceptions to that. But go get one on Saturday. Go get one of these running backs. They're not all going to be drafted in the first 3 rounds, of course. There's a bias, not a wrong one, against, in my opinion, against running backs early in the draft. You get to Saturday, and there could just be a lot of really talented players, like, I don't know, 10 to 20 of those guys. So he did tell us, he not just would tell us, he did tell us that the Bills should get one of those guys. And I wonder, I told him, I'm waiting for the league. The league has made, again, this is through my opinion, the league has made progress in understanding running back value. And thus, when you're drafting on Saturday, being open to at least the possibility that pick, a running back picked on day 3, might really matter to you. This was Ray Davis, and there are better examples. But Davis, was picked in the 4th round, right? And he had a role. There are teams, he also played on a team where a different running back scored 16 rushing touchdowns. He wasn't exactly needed to play a bigger role. Whereas in other teams, that was the case. The Giants drafted a running back last year, maybe in the 5th or even 6th round, Tyrone Tracy, who moved in ahead of Singletary and was their number one last year. He did okay. I'm waiting for the league to get to that point where Saturday draft picks at running back, they have plans for them. And, if this is what you're doing, and this is even the Bills, it's not what you're doing if you're going to pay James Cook more than $10 million a year. Like, there's no real urgency to draft somebody and figure out a way to get him on the field. No, if you're doing that, James Cook is going to be on the field. How did we get back to James Cook again? We always do. So I'm excited about fantasy-wise, like those running backs, and I'm hoping, in some cases they get picked and then really it's realistic to think that they could play. I mean, a lot of teams after last year have their number one guy under contract. There were lots of big running back contracts passed out, and many of those guys hit, even like not just Barkley, but Derrick Henry, Jacobs in Green Bay, Mixon in Houston. You had guys who were not on new teams, but Alvin Kamara kept going. James Conner kept going for Arizona. Still, 1 year older, all of them, all of us, like that group of running backs, and will be very interesting to see like where they land and if they get much of an opportunity. I'm totally here for the Bills drafting one of them, round 4 or 5. Paul Hamilton coming up. We'll sit with the Sabres loss for a few minutes, talk about the weekend, Minnesota and Winnipeg, the next 2 days, both afternoon games. Bulldog is off through not only past next week, he's off all the next week and then into the following week, so he'll be gone a while. This is Mike Schopp. Glad to have you here today. This is WGR.
Sabres play tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild as the 4-game road trip continues. It would be a face-off at 2 o'clock tomorrow, pregame starting at 1 here on WGR. Paul Hamilton joining Mike Schopp coming up next. Around the NHL, Edmonton's Connor McDavid getting imaging done after a lower body injury was sustained last night against the Winnipeg Jets. This according to Frank Saravalli. To football, Aaron Rodgers, the free agent quarterback, reportedly visiting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This according to various sources. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Saints have signed wide receiver Brandon Cooks to a 2-year deal worth $13 million. The Buffalo Bandits in action tonight against Las Vegas. It's downtown at KeyBank Center tonight for a 7:30 faceoff. You can hear that over on our sister station, The Bet, 1520. College hoops, there's a couple games going on right now, 3 of them in action at the moment. Number 4, Maryland up 39-23 on 13 seed Grand Canyon. Meanwhile, number 6, Ole Miss all over North Carolina. That score at 53-32. St. Mary's and Vanderbilt. St. Mary's has come back into this game and now taking the lead. They're up 53-50 on 10 seed Vanderbilt with about 2 minutes left in the second half of that game. Those are your sports headlines brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR.
Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Cross, this will be taken away, and it's McLeod with speed. Here's in behind the defense. Backhand scores! What a beautiful goal by McLeod! A short-handed goal, and it's tied this game at 2.
That was it for the Sabres offense last night, and the game ends somewhat, well, comically, with 2 empty net goals. One the Sabres put in on themselves with a power play. Rob Ray yelling, "Give them the puck," on the broadcast. These are not happy times around the Sabres, who play this weekend Minnesota and Winnipeg. Paul Hamilton joins me now on the Western Hotline, despite the Sabres' woes. For many years, Paul always manages to keep a smile on his face. Right, Paul?
How are you?
Good. Find the humor in it. Find something about it to keep us going here. Another tough season. How about that, Paul? It's not the first time that's ever happened, but it's another sort of example of how the Sabres just find ways.
Yeah, no, I've seen it before. I've actually played in games where it's happened before. So, yeah, it sometimes happens. Rob's right, though. I mean, somebody on the ice has to have the situational awareness enough to be yelling to Thompson or Quinn, neither of which knew that a delayed penalty was being called, to give them the puck. And I remember Lindy Ruff earlier in this year said that this is a very quiet group, and it was something he was trying to address. He wanted to see more communication, more talking on the ice, and obviously that has not been successful, because the same thing happened a couple of weeks ago where they could have had a 6-on-3 for probably around 30 seconds. Instead, they didn't give the other team the puck, and they wound up having a 6-on-3 for about 9 seconds. And, lost the hockey game. So it's just – and the Bruin game, I think we talked about this. They played pretty good defensively, except for the 3 different times where the Bruins got behind the defense, and the defense had no idea they were there. And one was a goal, one was a save, and the other they missed the pass. And that's just something that this group, it's something I've been talking about for I don't know how long, probably 3 years since this group has been together. They just leave people in front of the net. They're standing within a foot of them, but they have no idea they're there. And just situational awareness with this group just is awful.
That quiet point is an interesting one. What do you do about it? So if Ruff tried to get his team to be more vocal, and as you say, like, it hasn't really happened, I think that might be tough for an individual to sort of become that, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's more on how you put the team together, I want to say.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, he can address it, but, is he going to get through? I mean, there are a lot of points that they don't get through on, and it just, some folks maybe when when I say this, I don't mean they're actually dumb people, but sometimes the way they play hockey isn't the brightest in the world, and they just don't have that kind of awareness to play smart hockey, and you have to start weeding some of those folks out. Again, it just keeps happening over and over again, and it's happened for two different coaches where they're coaching this team to do two different things, but they couldn't do it either way, on a consistent basis. They do it for a while, but not enough. And, if that's the kind, even if they're great hockey players, if they don't have the hockey mind or the hockey mentality, you got to get rid of them and find other people.
And Dahlin, I'm not sure how he fits into this as the captain of the team, if you consider him quiet, but we did get another look at his temper last night.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he just hates to lose, but unfortunately, when they lose and he tries to do too much, it doesn't work well for him. I mean, the second empty net goal went in off his glove, as on the way down. And that winds up going in the net. And
he snaps the stick.
Yeah. They lead the National Hockey League in empty net goals against. The chart said 23 last night. It says 21 today. Maybe they corrected it. It's still, either way, it leads the league. And it's way too many, whichever the number is. And it just almost seems like every time they pull the goaltender, it's in their net in no time. And again, that's just, they don't compete hard enough, I think, times with the goaltender pulled, and they lose the battles. The other team gets the puck, and it's down in their net.
That's something where, and this is not meant as an excuse, but it's like the losing takes on that. That's what you see there. I mean, not just in terms of the micro in one game, but that's like a lost season, last place, all the years of it. It's got to be so demoralizing that I think it would be that much harder. Again, they're paid and paid professionals. It shouldn't exactly be like this, but I think in real terms, it would be that much harder to find that extra effort, that extra juice.
Yeah, and I think you just explained why a lot of fans ask, why do players leave here and do better? Well, a guy like Bogosian, who looked like his career was washed up here, and next there, Montour, or, the list goes on. I mean, guys like Reinhart and Eichel, they were stars here. I don't think they went and got better. They just went and played with better people and wound up with Stanley Cups. O'Reilly for a couple of years played better than he did in Buffalo, but he played well in Buffalo. But you always knew he wasn't reaching his, and that's what it is. I mean, you come into the arena, and you're out of it by the first of the year, and it's just like, it's like this rock is on top of you that you can't get off of you, and you maybe don't want to be that way, but you're human. And losing just takes it out of you. It takes your soul away after a while when you're doing it year after year. And now the arena becomes like you walk in, and it's just like as soon as you walk in, it's like, oh, this again, type of a thing. And then guys leave, and all of a sudden they're energized. I'm getting it about Cousins now. Well, Cousins did have a game where he was -3 against Montreal. But he scored a couple of goals, 3 or 4 since he's been gone, but he's in a playoff race now. He went from this losing blah to all of a sudden, wait a minute here, we're in a playoff spot, and now you're energized, now you're happy, now you're, and it makes a difference.
Only natural, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, we covered this yesterday and have talked about it since the deadline, and they've signed 3 of their own starting right before the deadline. But if you want a new makeup in your roster, it's going to be harder to do that through free agency. I mean, that's not always the best course anyway, but it's going to have to be trades, and I think we know as fans kind of what to expect there. It's rare, but that might be, what they need. Of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, they made a good trade to get Bo Byram, but now you got to sign him. Just having Bo Byram for a year and a half is not good enough. You've got to make him part of your group. He has proven that he's a good player, and it was a good trade. Now, but the trade's not going to be a good trade if after a year and a half, he decides he doesn't want to play here or whatever the case may be, and you don't sign him for a long-term deal. And so those are the types of players you have to keep. And, and then you got to get more of those types of players. And it can't just stop at, well, you traded Cousins. Well, okay, fine. You traded Cousins, but there has to be more. And they have to realize that. They just can't keep rolling out the same group over and over again and hoping this group is all of a sudden going to figure it out after for 3 years they couldn't.
Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline. So Minnesota and Winnipeg these next 2 days, both afternoon games, should be interesting. I don't know why I say that.
Well, yeah, it's back-to-back, and you're playing some good teams here. And, the Utah game, that game was there for them. It wasn't because of lack of effort. The effort was there. I don't think they were as good defensively as they were against Boston and Edmonton and Vegas. But still, it was right there for them. When McLeod scored that goal that we heard before we came on to make it 2-2, now, yeah, all right, there you are. It's 2-2. You're back. You're in the game, and you were in the game before the two empty netters. It's a 3-2 game. Again, if you have some situational awareness, it's a 3-2 game, and you're going on a 6-4 power play. Do they score? I don't know. Their power play has been pretty hot lately. I think it was 5 of 12 at the time when that happened. And you've scored a power play goal in that game. Maybe you got a chance to tie that game and get something out of it. So, they've played some pretty good hockey other than the Detroit game recently. So, maybe they can walk into Minnesota or Winnipeg. It's going to be a tall task for them, especially on a back-to-back. But maybe they can make something out of it. Who knows?
Thinking about Ovechkin much? 7 goals from the record, 6 to tie, 7 to win. And the Sabres are 4 games away for Washington a week from Sunday.
Yeah, I doubt. It's possible. A hat trick all of a sudden makes it possible.
Right.
So we'll see. I'll be there. I'd love to at least have an option for it when I'm sitting there on Sunday. So that would be kind of fun. But it was one of those things where I wasn't really thinking much of it because I didn't think he had too much of a chance. I still don't think he has too much of a chance with Buffalo there. But as I mentioned, if he pulls a hat trick at some point this week, then it definitely is an option.
Yeah, I love how anybody would love how it's coming down to the end of the season. Just makes it that much more dramatic. He's obviously had a long career. Will this have to go into next year? Hank Aaron got close to the Ruth record in 74, but was like 1 or 2 short. The season ended and he was like 1 or 2 short. So it was opening day the next year he might have hit 73 to 74. Opening day he might have hit one, and real early in the season. But be a shame if it doesn't happen, assuming you want it to happen, which I do, before the end of this season. Otherwise, we got to wait.
I think there's a pretty good chance it could. He would have to go into a bit of a slump. I think there's more of a chance for it to happen this season than not,
Yep.
But you never know.
Real close.
Yeah.
Paul, thanks for your time today.
Oh, not a problem. Take care.
Paul Hamilton's appearances on WGR are brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide, and by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this. Yeah, a week from Sunday is the Sabres game in Washington. The Capitals don't come back here this year. Quick break, then we'll talk some more. Bulldog is off. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. Oh, I was just sitting here thinking about the NCAA tournament. I've been sitting here a long time. I mean, not today. It's like 1:30. 20-some years, right? And how can I just had this thought. How can I get this out? There are times when, and it can feel like it's all the time, where, I don't know, maybe there's some news event or something, or you think about big sporting events, big sports, and like, I don't know, it's about to turn. Not exactly what I'm getting to, but there was an article or some tweet yesterday about ESPN doing something, maybe buying NFL Network or something. I'm not sure if that's a rumor or what that is, but I clicked on the tweet, and you do that and you get the comments, and like everybody, this showed that everybody loves to predict ESPN's demise. And haven't we been doing that forever? They let a certain person go, that's too woke. Like, people are always ready. They can't wait to tell the world, like if anybody cares, that they think ESPN is like doomed. That's it. Whatever it is. And like, maybe they do okay. Maybe this whole time ESPN has actually done okay. Maybe for 30 years, if not longer, people are just like on the edge of their seat, ready to, something happens. Oh, that's it. They got rid of Chris Berman. Like, whatever. Like, so, anything. Could be anything. It's something that people are excited to tell you, that ESPN is suddenly bad. And it feels like, I don't know, like balance sheets. Feels like maybe they do okay. Maybe that those predictions have been wrong. Maybe the next one will be too. And it seems it's the same kind of thing I'm thinking about with this tournament thought. I don't have a specific example of like, now we've got, the transfer portal and NIL. Oh, that's it. The tournament's, it probably isn't shot. The tournament probably isn't like suddenly turning sharply downhill. Maybe. Hockey so many times. Canceled season, rule changes, nobody can score, need bigger nets. Hockey, which steps in it so often. Maybe they do okay. Franchise values way up despite 14 straight non-playoff seasons in one case. Just it seems like mostly big sports is like immune to, drastic losses or, whatever's worse. Football, when Terry Pagula bought the Bills, when we had the bidding for the Bills, including Trump, when that was happening, I remember thinking and probably saying, why would you want to buy the Bills? What a bad investment. Concussions are so bad, insurance companies are going to stop, supporting high school football. It dies on the vine. People stop playing. Parents afraid their kids are going to be, brain damaged, and eventually there's just no player pool left. Well, how much is the franchise worth now? What is that? 10 years, more than 10 years ago now? I guess it is. What is it? I'm not really asking, just rhetorically, like what is it that will break it? Baseball. Oh, the commissioner's terrible. Pitch clock ruins the sanctity of the game. The shift was bad. The shift was going to, I'm overstating it. The shift was going to break baseball, and then banning the shift was going to break baseball. Neither did. It seems. They're playing games in, Japan. NFL's playing games in Brazil. Is there just there can't be, there has to be, but it just feels like there's no end to it. I'm not complaining. If 20 years ago I sat down here for my first day, all right, 23 years ago, I guess it is. If I sat down here for my first day and was actually, if this was how I was feeling, right in predicting that it's just all going under. Personal seat licenses, fans can't afford why? Just conscientious objection. Fans don't want to do that. They can't do that. There's only so much money. $8 billion stadiums paid by the taxpayers. That's it. I'm never going again. 14 straight losing teams, 17 years without. I'm never going again. How's it going over there? Pretty good? Even the Sabres, right? I mean, nothing personal, but with the Sabres for so long, so bad, and so mostly stagnant, don't you want it to hurt? I mean, don't you want it to hurt to get them to a point, to get Terry to a point where it's like, all right, enough. This is too embarrassing. I'm losing all this money, whatever it is, where he just sort of changes. I mean, ideally, you'd like that to happen already or anyway, but you think about it sometimes and it just seems like totally bulletproof. Even hockey. Even hockey. Gary Bettman, the what is it? The player safety stuff. Fighting. No fighting. This'll be terrible. Fighting, you have that one person in your life who always wants to tell you, like, nobody sits down during a fight. Okay, great. I've heard that one, but great. No fighting, gone for mostly 20 years. I mean, mostly gone. They're not thriving. It feels like they're thriving. Just something to think about. If you want, you can have it. Mention me, don't mention me, do what you think is right. Scott Barrett joined me earlier. Some great stuff, as always, from him on some of the most popular players to talk about around the NFL draft. That's coming up. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.